right, so this is the October 20th, 2021 regular meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, calling the meeting to order. We do have a quorum. And the first order of business is the approval of our minutes from the September 22nd meeting. So I will open it up to the commission for any proposed changes to the minutes.
Can I make one small edit, please, on page 3 of the page 3 in the paragraph, an update on standards of care, where it says, Ms. Bonsack mentioned we should maintain all our parks and equipment. I think my point was that we should maintain our parks and equipment in an equivalent standard. So I'd love it to say to maintain all our parks and equipment to an equivalent standard, and that is on par with other peer towns.
Cara, I'm having a hard time finding that.
Oh, sorry. It is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. It is 8 lines from the bottom. The sentence begins, Ms. Bonsack mentioned we should maintain all our parks and equipment. And then at that point, I would replace what's there with to an equivalent standard and one that's on par with our other peer towns. The point that I've been trying to make was just that we maintain all our parks in the same standards.
Okay.
Also in that paragraph, Pamela, we're on that paragraph, the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5th line down where it says determine at what we, my reading glasses on, want, and then it says A-R-E, and I think that should be our, O-U-R.
Yep.
Our parks.
Got it.
Any other commission members? No, everybody's good? We do so well on these minutes. I'm still scarred from the old days, so.
Yeah.
So scarred. So scarred.
Our whole meeting was spent getting them all set.
Yeah, years ago, for most of you, the town paid for an independent sort of private secretary from a secretarial firm to do the minutes. And oh my gosh, they didn't even resemble anything that had happened. And we would just spend half the meeting rewriting them. So we went to just having staff do it, and it's been so much better. Okay, well, if there's no other comments, I can take a motion to accept the minutes as amended.
I will make such a motion.
Thank you, Mary Louise. And Cara, we'll have you as the second.
Correct.
And then Pam, you need to do the roll call on the vote since we don't have Jamie with us this evening.
Okay, Susan, Mary Louise,
I made the
Cara?
motion.
She made the motion.
Okay. Amy,
I wasn't there last week, so
that's right. And Janet,
or last month. Last week.
I have to unmute Janet.
Second.
Yep, here. Yes, and I'm a yes as well, Pam.
okay, Lori, thank you.
Okay, so we're good. Excellent. Okay, Pam, did anybody register for public comment?
No,
No. Okay, do we have anybody in the audience who would like to make a public comment?
Patty Baumgardner would.
Okay, Patty Baumgardner.
Do you need to see me?
I'd prefer to, yes, ma'am.
Okay, I had not intended to speak, but I just, so I look so lovely. So I just wanted to say thank you to Pam and Lori and everyone. Y'all did an amazing job on Sunday with the pickleball courts and the basketball courts. There were so many people there. You really felt that sense of community. People were there all day. It was amazing how many people were at the basketball court, all different ages, young kids, older kids. We did all those basketball giveaway raffles. Same thing over at pickleball. It was really a special day. And Mary, I know it was crowded, but even the garden folks pulled me over at the end, Dorothy, and said, "Come have a glass of wine. We're celebrating everything at Cherry Lawn." It was you really got the sense of community there. So thank you all, and thank you, Lori and Susan, who were there. Appreciate it.
Thanks,
So
Patty.
that was my yeehaw. Thank you. And then I just wanted to talk to two things on the agenda real quickly. Number one, I know you just added on a comment about the winter dog program. I wanted to thank you for that at Weed Beach. Everyone I spoke to really appreciated that. And I think as we talked before, so many people are looking to spend time outdoors. We heard several families last year with very young kids spoke very meaningful and moving about how some of them were even taking their kids like earlier in the day before school or right after school because it was so stressful, with COVID and everything, and that being in school with all the things that they had to do. That was their one time where they could just relax before or after school. So I wanted to say thank you for that. I think that the program went very well. And what I would like you all just to consider is I did some research. The one thing I would recommend if you would think about it is just expanding the program a little longer. I'm not talking about 6 months, but Westport Beach, Campo Beach in Westport does it from October 1st to March 31st. And Jennings Beach in Fairfield does it October 1st through March 31st. Now, I know we're already into November, but I would propose that you'd please consider starting it November 1st. It's just a little bit warmer, so all of us don't have to only be down there when, we're in our heavy coats. So thank you for that consideration. The other thing that I would like to say with regards to the capital budget, Lori, I think this first rounds for you guys, right? You're just kind of starting to talk.
We're just starting to talk. Yep.
We're going to talk more after you do the tours.
Yes.
So,
November and December.
What I would say that I think I would like you all to consider adding into the capital budget somewhere. Doesn't have to be a big, massive number like some of the other ones is, I know the invasives have been a big concern as they're taking over Cherry Lawn. And, I think, Lori, you're going to be talking about that and having Laura Mosher take us all through that. But I do think it's important to put a number in there because that's part of the care and maintenance. So I would recommend, I don't think there's anything wrong with adding that in, Pam, as a line item, and y'all can think about what number you want to do. Even those big trees that have fallen in the pond, they definitely need to come out. I mean, it's just, they've been laying there. And if y'all get a chance, you should run down and look at Waveney one day and walk around. They've really done a beautiful job there. And I'm sure we could continue to get donations of benches as we clear things out. And, we already made that path last April through all volunteers with getting all the wood chips. So, but I can't haul the big trees out myself. So,
Oh, come on, Patty.
I'll try. I'm not that strong enough. But I would, this is a capital item. I would put it in. I would think about what number you want to put in towards that. Anyways, that's it. Thank you. Thanks for all your hard work.
Thank you. Anybody else?
I want to add thank you to Patty as well, because it's not just about us. She did a lot of things for Sunday's ribbon cutting and donated the basketballs and, so, right back at you. Thank you very much. And same with Steve. And it was wonderful. So thank you.
Thank you.
Yep.
Agreed. Well said.
I think Kelly Scanlon wants to speak also.
Yep.
I don't know if she's
Yep.
on. Okay.
Yep, I see Kelly up in the corner.
Callahan's Corner. Here I am, just like, what is that? I just wanted to thank you all for a really well done opening of Cherry Lawn and the basketball. My husband specifically loves that Cherry Lawn basketball court. He's over there every single weekend. And so you really, and so are so many kids in town. So a huge thank you for everything you guys do to improve our town. As a real estate agent, it also is really helpful when I go to sell our town. Not that it needs a lot of selling, but honestly, to have a beautiful basketball court and, right on trend, pickleball courts, it's great. With regard to Cherry Lawn, I don't know if I can suggest something, but I'm just wondering if it's at all possible to do like an aerator fountain in that pond, where the tree is, Patty? Oh, I don't know where she went. But anyways, do you know what I'm talking about? It gets that green slime on it in the
Yeah,
summertime.
we've been talking about that behind the scenes, but we have to get power there. So power's been the issue. So I've been back and forth with different contractors about where to pull the power from. So eventually we'll nail that down and put it in the capital.
Oh, that's good. And thank you for thinking of that already. And the other thing is with the beaches, the dog beaches, I love that you guys are still doing that. I hope that you continue it. And I am your biggest advocate and supporter where it comes to cleaning up of, the Weed Beach area. Let me know what I can do. Always there to help you guys out. Would love it if it started earlier, kind of just in line with the other towns that are close by. And, just like Patty said, it's a little bit warmer and get those boys out there exercising a little bit more. So anyway, thanks again for everything you guys do.
Thanks, Kelly.
Hey, Pam, isn't there power in the gazebo? There's no light there? There's no
No.
overhead light?
That was one of the suggestions a couple years ago, but the number that I was given by one of our electricians it was way too low. So I had other electricians come in and say it's a much bigger job than the 12,000 that we had set aside for that. So we have to go back and get a harder number.
What about a battery operated pump? Or a solar power pump?
I don't know about that, about the aerator, if there's something like that. Don't know. I'd have to look into that.
I bet you there's a solar powered aerator pump.
Any other public comment? Just trying to scan the boxes, but keep moving. Okay. I think we're good then. All right, thank you. All right, let's move on to the next item, which is the standards of care. I'm hoping to finalize that tonight. And what I mean by finalizing it is to have a document that we agree on that we would then cascade out to the different constituent groups that we talked about at the last meeting for anything that those groups feel needs to be added or changed. And then ideally we want to start getting public support, people coming back and writing letters, or whether we have a hearing or not, to say, yes, we agree with this and it's a priority in town and the parks need to be maintained and we need the funding to support it, is what it really gets down to. So I'm trying to get this so it wouldn't be like the final one we vote on, because we would want that input first. But I think, as I put it in my email when I distributed it, it's like, the final draft, so to speak, that we agree as a group. So what I did is send out one that was redlined to last time. So hope to draw your attentions. And there were a couple of things I really fiddled with and struggled with a little bit. So I'll just mention those. And one, Cara, I know you suggested and you mentioned earlier about having something in about maintaining them, kind of comparable with our peer towns. But my concern is that I don't know how that's measurable, because I don't know that I could say whether our peer town banks, peer town parks are, who they are. Are they better than ours? Are they worse than? I don't know that I have enough of a sense of that we could measure it. I mean, conceptually, I really understand what you're saying. is that if everybody else is good, on the other hand, you could say, well, this town, some other town lets their parks run down or something, it can kind of cut both ways. So I was struggling with how we would do that in a measurable way.
I appreciate it. I'm fine that we leave it out. I think I had 2 points. One, just that we apply the standards equally across all of our facilities in Darien, which I think you have captured.
Right.
And my intention with the comparing us to other towns was to have some sort of global standard of what what our overall goal was, and that our parks are on par with the competitive towns that people choose to move to. But I appreciate that it's hard to measure. So I'm fine to leave it out.
Okay, thanks. And then Kathy was interested in having a statement about addressing climate change. And again, I fiddled and I played and whatever. And part of it is, I sort of view this more of sort of an operating document in terms of just sort of week to week, month to month, how are we going to, take care of our parks, and to sort of put in a statement there that we're going to take actions to address climate changing. And how do you measure that? It feels kind of lofty and hard to get our arms around. What I was hoping is that the section that was added specifically on trees gets to that intent. And I think any of us who listen to the flooding hearings, the Eversource hearings, understand the importance of trees in terms of, the tree canopy. I think we've all shared links to a lot of articles about the tree canopy. I know Amy has sent some, different people forwarded them around. And, when you think of what we as a Parks Commission can do to address this huge issue that's facing, our nation and the world, trees are really important piece of that in terms of the things that we can control in a park. So was hoping that the added language around the trees, which was another piece that people definitely said they wanted more specificity in there, would possibly address that, along with the statement saying that towards the end says to achieve these standards, the commission commit to, and added a bullet says make decisions that will promote the health of the environment and the public. So I didn't specifically say climate change, but I said the health of the environment. But it didn't just feel so enormous to me. So just, again, input, people, have sort of changes in wording or something. I'm definitely open to that, but I just kind of wanted to let you know what my thought process is when I sat and fiddled with this and wordsmithed it. And then again, you'll see we added, a more specific part about, annual assessments, which we've kind of been doing, but, I love that was a great suggestion. I think that was from Cara, to just put it right out there that we're just going to do this annually. So I think those were the highlights in terms of the things when you look back at the minutes, and I read back my notes from last meeting to do these. I know there's a concern that's saying weed-free might imply pesticides, so I kind of flipped it. I said, well, how do I say that? So I just turned it around to say to be weeded, which to me, in my mind, weeding is more kind of getting rid of weeds than treating them. But and then added in, hopefully the idea the use of organics gets picked up in that section I just mentioned about that we're going to make decisions to promote the health of the environment and the public, which I think gets to, for instance, the use of organics. Again, because it's tricky to specifically say we're only going to use organics. I don't, we've had so much discussion around that topic, and I know that's absolutely our bias as a commission. But, we or the town haven't gotten that far yet as, Stanford has, for instance. So people comfortable, final changes before we have.
I just have a comment.
Yes.
Under, in that same bullet point area, the very final bullet point says promote the formation of additional alliances with Darien nonprofits and friends groups to help friend and fundraise.
Oh, yeah. Well, I did mean friend raise, but if that people aren't, friend raise just means get more people who are champions of the parks.
Okay,
who are promoting the parks, helping us run programs. So they might not be necessarily giving money,
okay.
but they're giving their services and their support, and that's kind of known as friend raising in the not-for-profit world. But if
Gotcha.
that's not,
I haven't heard that.
if that's
So
not
you may
clear,
just, in an effort to make that clear, you may just want to put the word both in. Tell both friend and fundraise for special
Okay.
projects,
okay, children to help.
just to make it a little clearer, and perhaps that will satisfy Pam's.
Okay,
I would be fine either way, but I just hadn't heard of it.
yeah,
So Lori, I'm really pleased with your additions and red lines. Of course, I'd always love for it to go further, but I'm very pleased you added the trees. I'm very pleased that you added make decisions that will promote the health of our environment and public. And I understand the sensitivity around that. So I think you did a nice job with those.
thank you. And again, I was trying to stay somewhat measurable, which, you know, I was going to touch on more in the parks tour when we talk about that, but you know, that's really going to be one of our charges when we go out and do the tour and whatever, is to say, okay, can we take these bullets and say, how are we doing? You know, like, how are we doing against each of these in each of the parks? You know, which will help direct both Pam in formatting both the operating and the capital budget. So.
One other comment I had was the second paragraph when you talked about the amount of the acreage that we have in parkland.
Yeah.
And then additionally, the town owns 2 parcels for public recreational use, which are not dedicated parklands. But I think we should find out how many acres the 2 are. We know that Highland is 16 acres. Perhaps put in the additional acreage so it shows how much additional work we're doing on non-parkland.
All right,
So,
if you can get that for me, we can absolutely put that in. I just didn't have that.
So Highland, and when you're referring to that, are you referring to Highland and Hecker, or?
Highland, what was the
You
other
say
one?
town owns 2 parcels. I'm assuming it's the
Diller.
Hecker
Or was it
parcel.
Edgerton? Edgerton.
Yeah, we're not really caring for Edgerton right now, but I suppose if they needed something done and they asked us, that would be one thing, but that's not in our normal routine right now. It's
Okay.
Hecker, which I think is 2.5 acres, and Highland, which is 16.
Okay.
So to my knowledge, Jim, do you know that? I don't know if Jim knows, but.
Well, are you asking for the acreage?
No, I'm wondering for the 2 additional properties is Hecker and Highland that are town properties.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm not.
I'm 100% sure we take care of Hecker. I wasn't sure if there's an additional one out there, so.
Well, it was the police department, but we're not taking care of that anymore.
No. Oh, we are taking care of the firefighters area though in the back. The
Yeah.
garage.
Fire tower, yeah.
So maybe I have to add those 3 in. Okay, I'll get back to you on
No,
that.
just get back to me on that.
Yep.
Okay.
Who's maintaining the Diller property now? Is that because it's all track? I mean, we don't really, I know it's under our auspices, but are we maintaining that, or is the,
Yes.
okay.
Yeah.
And the
Yeah,
trails and everything?
Yeah, the crews went in and did a lot of repairs after the storm damage.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And who takes care of the paths over the wetlands and such?
The paths, the cross-country path?
The boarded paths.
Yeah, our guys.
Our guys do? Okay.
Yep.
May I say something regarding the Hecker property?
Is that Cheryl?
Yes.
Yeah, you're very hard to hear.
I know, my mic is not. Is that better?
Yeah.
Okay. The Hecker Avenue property is 1.2452 acres. And the state of Connecticut has conservation easement Land Trust to own half of the property. And it's not dedicated open space. So that's what the Hecker Avenue property is. So
Okay,
you all know now.
okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So it sounds like folks are good with these, and, you know, we can get them just this final cleanup and then get them distributed out to the constituents that we were, you know, we had kind of made a big list last month, and then certainly if we think of other folks, we can add those on as well. Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, so everybody's good?
Yes.
I don't think we have this as an official vote, but I have a head nods. Okay, cool. Cool. All righty. Next is discussion and vote on the winter dog program at Weed Beach. Past years, I think we've discussed this and voted on it, or we've had, you know, kind of a couple months, but we've been doing this for a few years now. You know, there was some interest in getting it, you know, discussed and possibly voted on sooner, so that the program could get going, et cetera. So we decided to move it forward to this meeting rather than wait till November, where I think we started Thanksgiving weekend in past years. Yeah, as I recall, the last year, certainly the program went pretty smoothly. We always have some violators of, you know, the hours or the dogs being in the wrong parts of the park. So it's never perfect. And we've had a lot of discussion around that. And then we did, you know, working with Patty and I think Kelly and some other folks, and Jamie Gore started, you know, the Doggy Do and the Darien Digs Dogs program to really support us and remind people of the rules and feature. And are we still doing that? I know Jamie's not here tonight. Patty's still on. Is that still active?
Yes, and we're
Yes.
about to, we just talked with Jamie about it on Sunday when we were all together for the paddle and pickleball, or pickleball and basketball stuff. And we talked about how we want to get new signs for the fall and for the winter program. So yes.
Okay, so your group will continue to support us to encourage positive behaviors.
Yes, ma'am. Wolf, wolf.
Good. Okay, good. Okay. So, I mean, there's always going to be some people who break the rules. That's just, unfortunately, that's the way life seems to be. And we just have to keep really working with folks and, you know, trying to get them to do the right things. But all in all, I believe it generally went pretty smooth. We had some issues with people taking down our signs. I really think we want to think about the signage and not over signing. We got some complaints. I think Pam and the staff put so many signs up so that people would be abundantly clear where they're supposed to go. But then people complained that there were too many signs. Pam?
Just a good time for me to insert that a gentleman from Cherry Lawn speaking about how not everybody follows the rules, but we have a tennis player that's at Cherry Lawn, which he says quite a few times a week at 7:30 in the morning, and he's witnessed dogs in our playground at Cherry Lawn and is really wanting just to see us to put a fence up around the large playground. So just throwing that out there for all the people that do good things and follow all the rules. You're absolutely right. There's going to be people that don't.
Wait, isn't there a fence around the large playground at Cherry Lawn? Or what am I thinking of?
Just a
I know.
small one.
The small one where, sorry, now I know what you're talking about, that. Okay, yeah.
And I think when we're going to do the redo for that both those small playground and a large kids playground, I think that's not a bad idea.
Yep, Susan?
Oh, I just wanted to provide some input on the Weed Beach dog program. As you guys know, I had adopted a rescue pup during the pandemic. So I did spend a lot of time there, to be honest with you, because it was the only off-leash area that we could go to at certain times. And I found that there weren't that many people there during the day, to be honest with you, especially weekdays. And the people I saw were pretty good about picking up. And if they saw any mess, a lot of times people just said, I have an extra doggy bag, I'm just going to pick it up. Like, people weren't they were really cognizant that we needed to keep the space clean. There were a couple of times people did kind of wander towards the other side, but just a gentle nod to say, hey, I don't know if you know, but the area is here, that's, to keep it, the line delineated. I think we have to make sure of that. The signage helps, but as you must have known, I mean, it gets windy down there, and that sign flew down so many times. I picked it up and go down. So if we could think of a better way to kind of delineate that space to the, on that side of the beach, I think that would solve a lot of communication challenges. But from what I saw, I really never saw people go outside of that area. And like I said, we had a ton of fun. We met a lot of great dogs down there. And I think it's a self-selecting crowd. People do tend to go there and have control of their dogs. So you didn't see dogs wandering around on their own. So I was fully in support of it. I mean, I've never spent so much time at Wheat Beach, to be honest with you. Not even with my children, which tells you a lot, right? So, especially since I did the playground. But so I would be in support of doing the program again. And also, I think that the date we had started at Thanksgiving is nice, but that's such a weird date because it changes every year. I'd like to see it be like a more uniform time, like the beginning of a month, like November 1st, maybe, and just try it out that way. I just felt like that's part of the reason I actually encouraged us to vote ahead on this, because there has been so much excitement about this program from previous years. I did see some people were asking about the program. So the sooner we get a decision made about what we plan to do, I think it'll help the public, start revving, thinking about what they could do with their dogs and also their children, their families. I think that would be a great public service that we can offer. Thank you.
Just building on what Susan's saying, I don't understand why this is a ad hoc program that gets reconsidered every year as opposed to what we need to make it a permanent program, because it would seem like some of the communication issues would be addressed if there was consistency year to year, and then we could build equity in what the rules and the culture is. I know I'm new to the commission, but I'd love to see definitely in the interest of efficiency, figuring out what we need to say, could this become a permanent decision as opposed to having to reconsider it every year.
I mean, we could certainly, the idea was we're going to try it for a few years and really see whether it worked well or not, and what the issues were, and what, whether it was workable, whether there were problems or whatever. So I think this would be our third year. Does that sound right, Susan? And
Yes.
Amy, is like third year. So
yeah.
I think if we can, get through the season, we could certainly talk about, making a permanent, update to the parks rules, to embed it more permanently, so it's not a year after year. But I think we want to just really see how it went for a few years and to see whether people abided by the rules. I think we're trying to get a sense of whether it was, how much it was going to drive increased, beach traffic, were people going to clean up, kind of all of those things. We wanted to really get a sense, many people are in support, but there are definitely some, people in town who, just don't like the concept of dogs on the beach, for health and other reasons. So there were definitely some concerns about it, but, on net, all in all, it's gone pretty well. You all know that I live, very near the park. I go down there a lot on weekends. I have gently tried to remind people whose dogs were I've seen people sit with their dog in the playground area. So have tried to gently remind those people. And, you take frankly, you take verbal abuse when you do that. I think maybe coming from another dog owner, it goes better than someone without a dog with them. So I think those of, we've witnessed it. So it is definitely that balance, but on net, we've not received a lot of complaints. We haven't had issues. My biggest concern has always been keeping dogs well away from the playground area for, the risk of safety and, biting, and dogs can get weird and aggressive. And that's really the concern, is to keep them well away from children. And we just have to make sure that happens. So I think that's why we were trying to use a really bad pun, keep a tighter leash on the program, was to really make sure that we didn't have problems that would cause. Nobody laughed at that.
I thought it was funny.
I thought it was funny too. Thank you.
Oh, yeah, and just most I do not own a dog. You all know that. But, we were out in California a week or so ago taking care of our grandchildren and our very large grand dog. And it's just interesting for me now, but he's very possessive of my granddaughters. And we were playing this game that they wanted to play where they would like turn me into a different animal and I had to make the animal noises. And they turned me into a lion and I was growling at them and he got really aggressive with me, like really like, oh, we have to stop doing this. Right? So, you just don't always know with animals. And that was our concern, is having them anywhere near the playground. So
I would think there should be a permanent sort of metal sign on the playground that has no dogs on it. I mean, that seems like common sense. It shouldn't have temporary signage and
I think part of the issue, Kara, was that the playground's open on one side. So purposely, that was when I did Playground by the Sound. So you have the part that's the street, that's, accessible to the parking lot, I should say. That's all gated, but the part that goes towards the beach is open. So that's not a fully enclosed playground. And also going back to the reasoning behind why the commission did not previously allow dogs on the beach. One of the things that we were told many years ago was that dog waste was going to be really harmful to children. And so we went forward with that knowledge. And then I think most recently we heard from the health director, David Knuff, I guess. He said something later on when we presented the program again a few years ago that he didn't think it was as toxic. So then we were kind of trying to figure out, anyway. So the solution ended up being an off-season situation and off to where we thought that kids and potential contamination wouldn't occur, and just to kind of try it out. And to my knowledge, I don't know if there's any situation where we've heard someone touching poop and getting sick at that, with this program.
Not that I'm aware of.
Hopefully not.
Hopefully not. So that's that. All right, so any further discussion, beyond that, we can certainly get a motion on the table to, implement the program for this season. And then as the season progresses, if we, as a commission decide we want to move towards updating, the parks rules to make this permanent, that's something we absolutely can be, discussing as a group, whether we want to wait and see how this season goes and just make sure there's kind of no further issues or challenges. I think if we had 3 seasons behind us, that would give us enough data points that we would know what's really workable and what's not workable.
Can we consider the extension to November 1st? Or to make it?
You can put any motion on the table you'd like, Susan.
I'd like to put that motion up just to make it easier, to be honest with you. I just feel like it's a good date, and the weather is cooling. So if we have any issues with beach usage, I think there should be fewer people at the beach at that time. So that's why I would suggest it.
Okay. So are you making a motion?
Oh, I'd like to make a motion, yes, to support the vote on the winter dog program at Weed Beach from November 1st to, I guess, March 31st. Is that our date?
I think that was our date.
Yeah. That's our previous. So we've already extended it by a few weeks in November. So that's a good amount of time now.
I'll second that.
Okay. I think we need to set on hours as well.
Ooh. I'm trying to remember what the hours were.
Yeah.
I think they were, I want to say 9 to 2 off the top of my head.
It was
I thought
definitely.
we allowed people to go earlier. Remember, there was earlier because you were concerned about the school buses, but there was a morning crowd. I thought they opened it up early.
Well, we didn't last year. My concern was putting a lot of traffic on Nearwater Lane when school's loading in and the kids are walking up and down the streets and the kids are biking to school and everything. That was my one concern, because there's only one way in and one way out. It's not even like Pear Tree where there's 2 directions.
Just in terms of volume, since I was there so much, even on weekends, there weren't honestly much more than 5, 7 families at the beach with their dogs at any given moment, to be honest with you. So I think during the weekday, when you think the traffic is going to be a problem, there'll probably be fewer people. I mean, I know that I have to get kids to school, so I might not be going there right when it opens. So just if you have any traffic concerns.
Do you think it would open up to more traffic, though, people going before work? That's my only concern. My concern is people really speed up and down this street, and a lot of kids walk and bike to school, like a lot. And as you get further down Nearwater, the sidewalk is horrible. And like you kind of have to veer out onto the street and stuff. So that, again, that was my concern, was really just a safety issue of putting more traffic.
I don't think it's going to bring more traffic, and I don't think people that have dogs would be the ones driving really fast, because I walk a lot with my dog. So when I drive now, I'm very conscious of traffic and people on the street. I don't know if it's self-selecting crowd. I'm not so concerned about the traffic, to be honest with you. But there are people that are morning people that like to get, they're walking with their dog or their exercise. So it's not the worst thing to offer as an option for some people. That it might even spread out the usage more. I don't know. I'm just a guess. I don't know. Just
Pam, I think it was dawn to dusk, if you recall, because you wanted to have it consistent with what the other parks were.
I thought it was too, but I don't have it in front of me.
No, it definitely, I think, was over at like 2:00. Because I remember going down there to Weed Beach on weekends, especially kind of after the cutoff hour for sort of a mid-afternoon walk, and would see people that it was technically past the cutoff. So I'm quite sure it was like 2:00.
Maybe y'all can check that later, but you could at least extend it till November 1st and then make that follow up. I don't know. That's my
gonna
feeling.
have the hours though. I don't know. Is somebody can pop on? I can't go on my computer without losing you guys. But if somebody could go back and look at the minutes from last November's meeting.
Jim, can you look that up from your computer?
Yep, Kelly, you're making a face.
Yeah, I think that you guys changed it like in January. It started off ending at 2. Then at a January meeting or around that time, I'm pretty sure it was January though, it was changed to dusk, because do you remember there was the conversation about, well, it didn't give people enough time who are working. And so they would go on their lunch hour or am I getting this confused with another conversation? I felt like there was that issue, and then you all moved it to dusk.
I don't remember that, but I won't swear we didn't either.
I don't, it's Adele Coniff. I don't remember that either.
You don't? I'm dreaming. I don't know.
I think we were trying to get the dogs off.
9 to 1.
I think we were trying to get them out of the park before after school, because families do go down year round and use the playground. So I think it was like, let's kind of do that when kids are at school, and then have the dogs off of the beach in case they wander down to the wrong area before the kids get down to use the park. I believe was the thinking.
It was 9 to 1, I believe. I think that's the original time.
That was the first time.
It was the original time. And then I remember you guys talking about walking around the entire parking lot. Remember? Right. You said that was okay. Yes. I think it was around that. If you're looking in the minutes, I guess, whenever you all made that decision, I think we talked about the hours, but whatever. I don't know. I don't know how the minutes.
Maybe it was off leash till 2, but that people could have their dogs on leash from dawn till dusk, maybe?
Yeah, maybe. Maybe it was something like that. I don't remember.
We don't remember. Well, why don't we pick hours for now, and then if we want to revisit next month, we can always do that. I know that's a little confusing. The other place it would have been is the Doggy Do people made a nice, you guys did a nice park by park with the rules.
Yeah, I'm trying to look through my photos right now to see if I can find the signs too that Pam made, that we made.
I only have 3 dogs and I tend not to take them to the beach, but intuitively having an hour cutoff feels like it creates a really challenging communication issue, because it's like a rule and you wouldn't expect that I can have a dog at 1 but not 3 o'clock. And so I think that I just looked, Jennings Beach has no time limitations. And our peer towns might not always do it right, but I wonder if we want to try not having an hour cutoff, so we're not policing. Is it 2 o'clock, 2:30? And it just might allow us to focus on building equity in the things that really matter, which are October 1st to April 1st or November 1st, and just have some consistency in the program. I'm new, but I would suggest.
Because the truth is, we can't police it.
We know that. Jim?
This conference will now be recorded.
November, I'm looking at a sign from November 2020, and it was Winter Dog Walking Program, November 25th to December 18th. That's when it was a smaller window, 9 to 1, but that was year 2020. And then I'll keep going to find the photos from last year's program.
I think Jim found it.
Yeah, so it was voted on from it looks like at your October meeting to run from November 25th to December 19th from 9 to 1, and then at your December meeting you decided to carry it on through March from dawn to dusk.
Okay, on the desk, okay.
Okay, and there's our answer. Okay, so Susan, do you want to?
Sure. I move to,
Susan, you went on mute.
sorry, that's my son's computer. I'm not used to it. I move to approve the winter dog program at Weed Beach from November 1st to March 31st, dawn to dusk.
Okay.
Off leash, right?
Off leash in the designated area. Only in the designated area.
Okay. But they can walk in the parking lot, right? We said that was okay?
Yes.
On leash.
On leash, okay.
Okay. I'll second that.
Okay.
Okay, roll call. Lori?
Yes.
Kara?
Yes. Could somebody just
Janet?
clarify, or could I just ask, is the park open dawn to dusk as well? Or is those are the same hours as the park? So there's no, okay, I'm a yes.
Yes. Janet?
Yes.
And Amy? Oh, thumbs up. Okay, got it.
Amy, thumbs
Yes.
up.
Sorry, I have 2 monitors and my cursor's all crazy.
Okay. So that's it.
Everybody. Okay,
Yep.
good. All right, thanks, everybody. Okay,
Okay.
leaving it up to our doggy do people to keep this under control, keep it clean.
Be clean.
Thank you.
Keep it clean. Okay, next item on the agenda is Pam is going to present her and her staff's initial proposals for the fiscal year 23 capital program. So remember, that would be from July 1st, 2022 until June 30th, 2023. So I know it seems weird to say 23, but it really would start next July 1st. And for new members, we'll be discussing this over the next few months and fine tuning it so that when Pam has to submit her budget into the town planning process, which kind of kicks off a little bit in December, I guess, with the staff, but then the selectmen really get going more in January. That's kind of the heavy season where they're really looking at each department's proposed budgets, and then really runs through the through April and into May for the whole town budget process. So there's a number of stops along the way, but we need to be thinking ahead about what we're going to ask for, because there are many stops and people with red pens that touch it along the way. So, so Pam and Jim will walk through what they're thinking. Pam sent out a document later this afternoon
right? That was an updated one that Jim and I spent some time today going through. I will note that we had a staff meeting this morning in regards to budget, and they want all our numbers much earlier. They want capital submitted before Thanksgiving, which I told them that it wouldn't work in terms of our schedule, but they'll work with us. But they are looking to get it a month ahead. So, before it was, before January. Now it's looking to be somewhere early December. So, with that being said, they'll work with us if we need more time, but they do want to get it submitted earlier.
Okay.
So, with that being said, I sent the 6-year plan, so you can go ahead and look to see what things we're thinking about as we go along throughout the years. But what we're really focusing on tonight is the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 requests that are highlighted. So we can start with as you can see, I changed it from last year and the years before, and I put the projects all in different parks. So you can see on the left column, they're all divided into individual parks. So you can see what's to be planned for each individual park.
Lori, is there any way we can share a screen and put this up on the screen? Or does that not work?
Yeah, I don't have it on. I don't know. I would be hesitant to get out of the screen right now and go into but I see what you're saying, but I did send this to everybody, and it's pretty self-explanatory, and I'd like to just go through the 7. So the tennis and pickleball courts, that 275, quite honestly, we discussed this in our office because this was supposed to be just the additional money that we didn't have with the post-tension tennis courts from last year. So in our budget this year, capital, we have $250,000. That's simply not enough going forward with materials being so high right now. So in order to get the post-tension tennis courts done, I would have come back and put additional $90,000. But seeing that pickleball is so popular, we have an opportunity to put 4 additional courts next to the tennis courts at Cherry Lawn and have a savings because the project will all be done at one time. So I think we have 3 different quotes. One came in for pickleball and tennis post-tension, $650,000. One came in at $525,000, and one came in at $475,000. So with the additional $250 that we have on hand, I put in $275 so that we can request to do both the tennis and the pickleball and leave room if there were some additional costs that we didn't know would happen, just like what did happen this year with rising costs. So that would cover, I believe, additional money we might need if costs continue to rise, coupled with our $250 that we have to get this project done next summer. Okay.
And
Any
Meg,
questions?
I'm sorry. So the total project cost is $625. It's the $250 that you need from this year plus an extra $270.
That's $525.
$525. Yeah. Sorry. Good point. Very good point. And the pickleball is so break out how much is the separate pickleball court?
The pickleball court for 4 courts post-tension, unlike the ones that we have there now, which are asphalt, they won't last as long. I got 2 quotes. I got 3 quotes, but one is just the highballer, so we're not even going there. Is $135,000 for one vendor, and the other vendor came in at $155, somewhere around there.
Pam, where are you putting this now?
Those would be as you walk to the tennis court, there's the flat grassy area right in front.
Okay.
And I had 3 vendors come out, and all of them have agreed that 4 courts can fit. It looks like it's pretty much the same postage stamp as the other 4 pickleball carts are now.
So I'm
Maria,
confused.
Popular dog meeting spot, just as the way it gets used right now.
So you're suggesting that we add more pickleball courts and take away more green space? Is that what this is saying?
Yes.
Okay, well, I overall think that Cherry Lawn Park is jammed. So if you think there's a need for more pickleball courts, I suggest we look at other parks to see where we can put these other than Cherry Lawn. There's just, as you know, Mary Louise is right. We are loving Cherry Lawn, but it is definitely maxed out.
Maybe
Okay.
in the time we keep moving, but note 2 questions about the demand and or space for pickleball.
Right. And, that's where we can pull out the master plans, really look at the different parks and see, where there might be, opportunities.
No, I mean, Cherry Lawn is just turning into, little fenced off areas, pieces of pie.
Yeah, and I would say though too, the courts, while they're busy, and like the park is busy, it's not 24/7. So to Mary Lou's point and our point on that Sunday, yes, it was extremely busy. There were lots of different things going on at the same time, but it's not like that all the time.
Well, my
The
understanding
pickleball
is the
courts
pickleball is
It's pretty busy.
The pickleball courts are not impervious, or are they pervious surfaces?
No,
Yeah.
asphalt is currently, but moving forward, like Weed Beach, those are post-tension, which is cement, and they last double the time. So again, the thought process was that if one project's being done, is it possible to save money in that one project and have, what we've already been hearing of wanting more courts. And it's definitely a sport that is growing, and it's growing quickly, even in our town. But again, that's a commission decision. This number can go from 275 back to 90. And that 90 would then just take care of the tennis courts. So
All right, well, I would say let's just leave a place. So this is the kind of the first that we're all hearing of your thinking on this. So let's just keep a placeholder on it for now. We'll be in the park in a few weeks. We can look at the master plan and see if there are other, alternatives that would tuck in with what was in the master plan, et cetera. And then the issue would be, would we get the same cost savings if the project was split between Cherry Lawn and another park? It might switch the bid.
Okay.
The same vendor would do the tennis court and the pickleball.
Right. If that were one project right there, correct. They'd already be tearing up the tennis court and replacing it. Okay, so I'll move on to McGuan. So McGuan, the next figure is 225,000. This last year was only 50,000 because it was just the surface. But I've met with a professional in the playground industry. That playground is almost 21 years old. So to put brand new surfacing, which one vendor came in at $98,000 for poured in place surface, that it wouldn't make sense not to redo the equipment. It's already, they say the max of a playground can be anywhere from 18 to 25 years old, 25, even 16, because some don't do well. This one's 21 years old. So this 225 would include new poured in place surface. And the reason I'm suggesting poured in place is because the manufactured wood chips are very difficult for our crew to keep up with. So when you go to, and Lori, I pointed this out to you when we were at Cherry Lawn, it's very difficult to keep up. That the playground is so busy that the wood chips just, they're constantly not level. The felt's coming up from underneath because it's just very busy. So if you have the poured in place like they have at Weed Beach, the one's project that Susan did, that's still in very good shape. And, you know, they have the sand versus and the rubber that's poured in place there. I think it's the way to go.
Well, also McGuan, we want this, that is our handicap accessible playground, so that the chips really don't work. I mean, one reason we have that surface that we have now is for the accessibility.
Well, yes, exactly. But I guess I'm getting ahead of myself. When we get to the other figures down the road in the 6-year plan, I think we should go for poured in place at Cherry Lawn as well. But that's down the road. But you're right, to replace the tiles are even more expensive than the poured in place, actually.
But are you suggesting for McGuan that we replace the tiles or that we go to poured in place?
We replace the tiles with poured in place.
And that would still meet the accessibility desires that we have.
Yes. And we wouldn't have to worry about the lifting of the tiles and grass coming through the cracks of it. So that would be the 2 new playscapes or one giant one, new swings, and all in that. I went and measured today too as well, but that figure gives us plenty of room to put something really nice there. Any questions? Okay, so we'll move on to Woodland. Woodland, I didn't change that. That's still that 20 that was in the budget last year. But I know that that was asphalting, and I know that the commission was not sure about that, not wanting to go down that route in a nature preserve. So I left the 20 there because I have to get a harder number on it. But with materials going up so much, I didn't want to change it. I figured if anything, even if it was crushed stone and they moved boulders, they made a little bit more room to have more organized parking, that would be enough money for that, seeing that materials have been increasing.
I still don't understand what the overall objective is, because people are so creative about how they park. People jam in there, and if you organize it, you're going to end up with fewer spaces because they're going to be lines. But so what's the objective here?
I think the objective was to have more organized parking because people were parking and be taking up through 2 or 3 different spots. It wasn't, we didn't feel as if it was efficient enough as when people came in and parked that we could make more room if we were to clear it out.
So I go there often. I would push back on that. I don't see people taking up 2 spaces. I see people like parking in front of the fire lane, squeezing in, parking super close. So I'm one voice, but I don't see that it's an inefficiency issue there.
Well, I think we should, when we go on our walkthrough, that's the reason we're hitting Woodland Park too. So I think as a group, it'd be good to see it. We did discuss it when we went there last time with this in mind.
Yep.
So I think it'd be great just to get it on the radar.
I think the fire lane, parking in the fire lane is kind of dangerous, to be honest with you, because if we ever have to get access, I go there with my dog too.
I think people park on this side, so the fire lane.
There are people parked in the fire lane too a lot. Like when it gets really crowded there, that's what they do. They really clog up all the spaces. And one of the things is, having done the Eagle projects, there are actually plantings all around the places people are parking. They're destroyed because the parking is so not delineated that anything you put there to make it look nice, it just gets run over. So, and then when they put chips down and clean up, it just never looks good. It just looks like we've driven over it a million times. So I think that if there are any trees that are not, optimal, just to make sure it's more, I think it helps to be more, and it's actually a dangerous spot there because if you can't find a spot, then you end up backing into Middlesex, which is a very busy road. And, and with the buses coming down that road and everything, I just think having it be more organized, it's probably a better idea. I think that with all the people with dogs coming in and using it, it can be challenging too. And especially during the morning after drop off, I've seen a lot of cars try to get in and try to figure out ways to park, and then they just park kind of willy-nilly. On basically it feels like you're doing off-roading. It just doesn't seem like a good way to park. And I'm not sure if it's destroying some of the vegetation that's already there.
Well, I'd love to go in person with both of you just because I have a slightly different experience there. And I think if the goal is beautification, great. I think the challenge is there are too many people trying to park there. So I don't know that we can get more spots out of it. But if we can achieve that, I support it. I just am worried we won't get more spots.
Okay. So we can move on. If nobody else has any other questions, we can move on to Baker Park. And Baker I have $10,000 for installing an irrigation valve. We've done this in the last couple of years at each different park. This gives Jim Flynn the ability to monitor the amount of water that is being used at Baker Park. We have one at Town Hall. We have one at Cherry Lawn. He can visit it right from his phone. So every year we're trying to add one valve to parks, individual parks. I also have install swing set. This $11,000, I got a quote just recently from a vendor who put in our individual, the playground sets at Cherry Lawn and the 2 to 5 year old. He came down, took a look. The job is just way too big for our guys. And this particular 4-bay swing set was donated from our school, elementary school. So I'd like to be able to use it. And this guy will install it for $11,000 at Baker.
So do you have the swing set now?
Yes. It's stored at the garage.
So where did it come from? Oxridge?
Tokenique. What's the one that's getting redone right now? Is that Oxridge?
Oxridge.
Yeah, it came from Oxridge.
So if we've got this swing set sitting in a garage, is there no way we can just go ask the selectmen or the Board of Finance for $11,000 from contingency or somewhere to just get this thing installed? I don't know. It seems sort of silly to me that we've got this piece of equipment that the town owns and we just want to get it installed and used, and we have to wait for 7, 8, 9 months.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Put it in. I mean, it just seems kind of ridiculous to me.
Well, truthfully, I got a lower quote from the same guy, but I think he felt that our park crew was going to do more work than they were willing to do, so it became 11. So at one point it was only 5, and I thought I could take it from the budget, but it's not working out that way.
Yeah,
but I could certainly have a conversation with Jen and Kate.
Yeah, I mean, it's a town-owned piece of equipment. We couldn't use it in one location. We want to put in to me, for a town like Darien to have to wait for 7 months to come up with $11,000. I don't know. I just think that seems kind of dumb to store in the town hall garage, which is flooded twice to boot.
Well, apparently not. It wasn't there.
Well, no, but I'm saying it wasn't there then, but it's there now. So
is Jen and Kate on the Board of Finance?
Jen is the finance director and Kate is the town administrator. So I would definitely have to go those two first.
Yeah.
Okay, let me do that. I'll give you an update in November.
Yep.
And we'll move on to Weed Beach. And this $155,000 is for an additional paddle court. Jim and I have had a discussion about the amount of, people that are now coming out to play paddle. Having additional court would certainly help the frustrations of those that have a difficult time getting court time. I don't know, Jim, if you want to speak to it a little bit more, since you are the head of those courts.
Well, we just don't have enough courts. I mean, it's time, I think. I mean, the demand for paddle, I think you'd have a lot of support from the people who play paddle tennis. Monday through Thursday and a lot on Fridays, you can't get a court. Weekend mornings, you can't get a court. Typically until about 2 o'clock on Saturdays, you can't get a court. So there's a need. That's pretty much all we can say. There's only a couple vendors that build paddle tennis courts, so we could get a lot of different estimates, and they're all going to be in the same ballpark. So that's kind of where we came up with that number.
Yeah, what would be good information to have when we're, as we go through, and assuming the commission agrees we want to do that, this is where, if you can do the math and say, this is how much a court generates each season. You can calculate the payback and say, basically, it'll pay for itself in X years or whatever. Now, maybe it's a lot of years, but this is where definitely we can at least present the case that would be a revenue generating capital expense.
Yeah, a court generates between $20,000 and $25,000 a year. So yeah, it's going to be a 5 or 6 year payoff.
Jim, I'm just curious, why is it that during those time slots you can't get the courts currently?
They're both.
They're reserved by residents. That's when those are the most popular times that people want to play.
I see.
Yeah, weeknights.
Just on demand. Okay, it's not that it's not available due to some town sponsored things. It's just that there's just so much demand.
Yep.
Where are this new court gonna go again?
We're looking at in between the tennis courts and the farthest paddle court 5. So that's
the one where we were gonna move the other ones that we were thinking of getting.
No, those were going to be kind of on the end of the tennis courts. This is kind of in between the paddle courts and the tennis courts. They'd be connected, so we have a little bit cost reduction on piping for propane. Some electric wouldn't have to run as far with electric. So that's probably the best place for us to put it.
Because when we were thinking about the other courts we were going to get, were there 3 of them?
I think so.
Yeah, there was 3, right? There were only 2.
I think there were 2.
Was it 2? Just out of curiosity, how much is 2 versus 1? Not that I'm just not saying we need 2, but since you're saying that
it's 155 a court. It was 100 a court. It went up to 155.
So there's no economies of scale by building 2, you're saying, just out of curiosity.
I would think there might be, Jim. Don't you think so? If
Yeah,
they're building 2, the cost would be lower.
It depends. I mean, a little bit, probably not a huge amount. I don't think. It depends on the site work. I mean, if you try to put a second one down at Weed Beach, we have that actually might be more because you might be looking at putting into ledge and things like that. So.
Just out of curiosity, because when we were getting those courts from another source, that was something that we considered putting 2 versus 1. Thank you.
Yeah, no
So
problem.
there were 3 courts, but I think there was only room in that space for 2.
Okay, so if there's not any other questions or discussion around that capital request, I'd move on to painting the bathhouse. That was a bigger number. If you remember, there was 16,000 there, but our guys are moving ahead currently and painting the paddle hut. So they've painted the railings last couple days, and they're going to be moving the exterior of the paddle. So the other quote I had received from a vendor for the bathhouse is 5,000. So that's that. And then ductless AC at Weed Concession. If you remember in a prior list I gave you, I had a commercial freezer to replace the freezer that's there now in the concession and the ductless AC. I took the freezer out because I can use the small capital budget I have for that, and the timing is much better because the freezer then can get put in the spring, as opposed to this is July, which was right in the middle of mayhem during the summer.
Yeah, I was worried
So-
about that timing.
Right, so I took that out. We'll get that done in the spring. The ductless air, they just came in today. They haven't given me a hard number yet, but a soft number was about 15,000 for ductless air. It would have the generator outside and have 2 air conditioners inside, which Weed Beach has never had. That's why the freezers always struggled in there, because when it gets really, really hot, there's no way to cool down the space. So I thought that would be something good to look at, especially if we're going to be putting in investment money to a new freezer. And that concludes the 7 that I have for fiscal 23.
So Pam, just going back to Cherry Lawn Park here for a second, you didn't want to put any money in for the gazebo to get refurbished?
So the gazebo, we currently have 15,000 for fiscal year 22. And what's happening with that is I have a vendor giving me another number. Jim Flynn got that 15,000 from a vendor. So again, materials have gone up, right, since all of this. So, but what I also have that I don't really want to get into right now, but I have a possibility of someone wanting to donate perhaps a new gazebo. But that's not even on the table right now. It's just in soft discussions. So I do think when we do our walkthrough, I really like all of us to take a closer look at the gazebo, because it's not just the roof. The gazebo itself needs work. So, you know, I think we really need to take a closer look at it. And plus, the 15,000 isn't going to go very far. But I do have a vendor giving me a second quote to see if he can stick to that 15,000. But that's doing a brand new roof on an old building. So that's what's happening with that.
Well, that sounds intriguing.
Yes.
Style
And that's
one.
all I have. And that's a pretty big one. That's 716,000. That's more than we've requested in quite a while. Moving into 23, 24, it's at 583, then 489, and then a little bit downwards, which those will go up in the 25, 26 as we, as the years go on. So, I will have some decisions to make on Amy and Mary Louise's point. We have some decisions to make whether we want to add any more amenities to Cherry Lawn.
Yeah, but this also doesn't really include big projects. It doesn't include Pear Tree, which probably would be bonded. It doesn't include the whole Weed Beach Meadows thing.
Right, and that most likely, that would be bonded as well. So it would never really hit this capital improvement sheet anyway.
Now, what about the issue of maintaining the trees and so on at Cherry Lawn and other parks as well? Do we want to put in a number as a capital expenditure, or is it premature?
Well, it sounds like it's not premature based on the timing, and I really like that idea.
Well, we had trees in here. If you remember, we had 5,000 each year for trees. The town decided not to do that anymore because it was accumulating.
So
So
this is money to start addressing the invasives, which when we do our park tour and Laura Mosier takes us through and discusses with all of you what she's discussed with me. I mean, she basically said we're getting to the point where the invasives are going to kill the trees in Cherry Lawn. So
Right,
it's,
so I think
it's not a just make it look pretty. This is we will lose trees, which, as we've talked about for a whole lot of reasons, is problematic.
But I think we can boost up our tree account in the operating budget. Either or.
I mean, I think somehow we've got to get quotes and figure out what's in, I mean, this is more than getting a bunch of volunteers in and pulling stuff
Correct.
on
Oh,
weekends.
no, I agree with you. I just think that we could either increase our tree maintenance account that we already have in our operating budget, which is at $18,000 right now per year. Or we could, like, for instance, in fiscal year 22, right now, we currently have $5,000 for trees, planting additional trees in Tilly Pond. It's put aside solely for Tilly. So we could, in this budget, if you wanted, 5,000 solely toward Cherry Lawn. But I think we really can boost the tree maintenance.
5,000 is not going to go very far at all. I think you're
Well,
talking
right.
a minimum of an initial investment of about 25 to start with.
I think it's going to be a lot more than that. I think it's
And I
six
think so.
figures. It's 6 figures.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Well, I guess we'll have to get that number from whomever would do the work.
Yeah.
So hard to speculate. I really don't know how much that would be. We can get a landscaper down there and see what the hard cost would be. And if we have to put it, if it's $25,000 worth of work, yes, we should throw it in capital.
Oh, it's easily. I'm telling you, I bet it's 6 figures.
Yeah, I agree.
And that's just a Cherry Lawn. I mean, Weed Beach, the back section of Weed Beach has terrible issue with invasives too. I mean,
I think the trees are a priority.
Okay. So why don't I'll work on getting a cost from someone. Amy, the person you're dealing with the trees, you're putting together the
Inventory, yeah. Well, I've had I think 4 meetings now, and we're
Okay.
getting closer.
Would he be someone that could give us a figure on getting rid of invasives?
No.
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 He's just a guy who really loves trees and knows his trees. But Amy, is he including the ones in the back section where it is so overgrown, or more just the groomed part of the park?
So Lori, I really wanted to talk to you offline because there's so much. This project is spiraling, right? And so I don't really know where to stop. Like, where do we stop counting? We need more definition around it. So I'd love to get.
Okay.
But I don't want to take time in this meeting, but do you do it by the caliper of the size of the trunk? Because I could just be counting hundreds and hundreds of little spindly things, near the nature center. And, what's the definition of a bush that's turned into a tree, and so it kind of goes on and on and on.
Nothing simple. Nothing.
It's not simple. Yeah, it's not simple, but it's super worthy, and I'm learning a ton, and I'm having a really great time, and we have so many more special trees than
I think, did Jimmy say there were 45 different species of trees that he's identified over at Cherry Lawn? Amy?
Let's see, where is my list? I want to give you a number that isn't correct.
Amy, can you reach out to him and see if he's available to join us at the parks tour?
Yeah, sure.
I mean, especially with Laura pointing out the issue, I mean, it would be great to have him along, because one thing that'd be interesting to know is in the area that we're concerned about, are there some species there that are really unique or special species? Because when we have to prioritize where we're going to start, that would be helpful to know. So between his expertise and Laura's, and Chris Filmer is going to join us as well. So we'll have,
Yes, I will include him. I think that's a lovely idea.
Okay.
And Lori, I have a landscaper that I used at Weed Beach when he got rid of some of the invasives down near the cement drive down there.
Yeah.
I can ask him to take a walk through. He split from that company and started his own business, so I'm sure he's pretty hungry.
Okay.
Yeah, so it looks like there are about 45 different trees.
Species, yeah.
Yeah.
I was just gonna say, I'm glad that, oh, sorry, are you done, Amy?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Sorry, I couldn't tell if you were still talking. I'm really glad that Chris Filmer from the Darien Land Trust is joining at Cherry Lawn Park, because I think Darien Land Trust takes care of part of the land behind Cherry Lawn Park, but has so much experience on how to deal with invasives and things like porcelain berry. You talk to them like, oh yeah, you can't really ever get rid of it. You've got to just chainsaw it down. It's easy to cut, but they just have a lot of experience.
Yep.
Things.
Yep. No, I talked to him about it on Sunday, and he will join us.
That's great. If we're ready to move on from trees, I had a couple of comments on the capital budget. Were there any more comments on trees? No. Oh, so there were a couple of other things that I would love to have considered for the budget. The first is in Cherry Lawn, that backboard is in terrible condition. So the playing surface by the backboard behind the 3 courts is all cracked. So as we're thinking about just what needs updating, I don't know what the plan is to, shoot, I'm about to lose power. So that was one. Do you have a thought on that?
The backboard on the basketball court?
No, there's a separate tennis backboard at Cherry Lawn Park. As you drive in, they're the first 3 courts, and behind those 3 courts is a
I
old.
think you mean weed, Cara.
Oh, sorry,
I think
you're
you're-
right. Thank you, Adele. I mean weed. At Weed. The backboard at Weed Beach. Sorry, numbers and names, not my forte tonight. Anyway, the backboard at Weed. Thank you, Adele. To me, looks
Yeah,
like
that's come up. That's come up a couple different times, and a few different ideas from residents. One was having our students, maybe the art center, or come out and actually paint it and do some murals on it. There was an idea there. I don't know that it's cracked, like coming down cracked. But I'd have to take a really closer look at it.
I think the surface on which you play, I'll send some pictures around, is cracked.
Okay.
In a totally different zip code than the court. So that would be one. The second is, I don't know where, I know the master plan was done in 2016, but there's just a couple of pages in it that I wonder if, given how much town has changed from the pandemic, courts have changed so much, if putting a little money aside to do updated, or some pages 37, 38, 39 about what's on people's mind in town would help from understanding the demand in town as we evaluate new pickleball courts versus paddleball versus something else. So I didn't know if that was on anybody's radar screen or not.
It has not been, but I understand what you're saying is that, there's definitely, information that they gathered about, what people want in town and how things are used. And, there probably has been some shift since that time. There's been a lot of change in town, as we know, for a variety of reasons. So
I guess I would just say sometime in the next 5 years, the data will then be 10 plus years out of date, and a lot of things have changed. And so I wouldn't advocate for redoing the whole thing, but just some recalibration of getting a sense for what people are looking for in town. Because sometimes to me, it feels like we're sort of stabbing at the dark. We hear this person wants this, we hear that person wants that, and having just a fact base for it would be something I would say to consider. And then my last 2 are kayaking and paddleboarding is so big in town. And I know you brought in, Pam, the stand-up board folks over at Weed Beach, but I wonder if that's something that town wants to be more involved in. Just as pickleball's growing, I think there's a lot of interest in paddleboarding, and if there's a way town can support that more.
what do you mean by support it?
Well, either more racks or getting boards that people could rent. But is this something that, as an activity people like to do, there's a way that we can provide better access to it?
Well, we have done, as you've noticed, numerous racks at Weed Beach and Pear Tree. Pear Tree, I don't think we can put any more racks there. Weed Beach, maybe we could fit another couple along that edge. We did still have a waiting list, so I think we would fill them. And we do currently have the company that is renting the paddleboards. And she did very well considering the weather this year as well. So it's something to think about. And those were Eagle Scout, well, it was originally an Eagle Scout project, but then our guys built the last 5 during winter projects.
It seems like just like the paddle courts are getting maxed out, that the same for the paddle boards. So anyway, and then just last, tell me your thoughts on why we don't have, I know Pear Tree Point Beach is thought to be a bonded project, but it seems like this is going to continue on for a couple of years and that bathhouse could use some updating. I know at least on the committee on the RTM, there was a universal consensus of a little more money in maintaining that building. So I'd love to hear the current thinking on that.
Well, that's definitely a commission. I need guidance from the commission about how much money they want to put into that building, since, as you know, it's still been put on hold. We did spend just under $6,000 painting the interior and putting mirrors in. So it really has nothing to do with me. It has everything to do with what the town feels they want to keep putting money into that building or not. I did want to mention, Cara, that the Parks Master Plan, I'm pretty certain that we started that in 2016, but we finished it a year later. So it's 2017, and it's supposed to be a 10-year plan.
Got it. Okay. So somewhere in the end of the 6-year, the 6-year capital plan, it seems like it'll come back on the radar screen if it's a 10.
Right. But I think that is a good suggestion, seeing that things have changed, like we would never have imagined that they would have. And our parks have been, incredibly essential, and much more userships of all the parks, and facilities. So that's all I have, Lori.
Okay, further discussion or comments? This is going to tie very nicely into our park tour a week from Saturday. Okay, and tie into the standards of care. So it all kind of should come together well in terms of our discussions and our timing. Any more questions for Pam on this before we move on? As I said, this will be, key discussion point for the next few months, definitely. Okay. Meeting dates. Okay. Pam distributed proposed meeting dates for 2022. We like to get this done because Jeannie likes to reserve the room. Hopefully we'll get to go back to meeting in person. So we just want to get these on the down. Our tradition has been that we meet the 3rd Wednesday of every month, and that's really what these dates are. I did some double check against holidays. What I did not look at, because I guess I'm not, is the school calendars and whether there's any issues there. Usually our school parents are pretty good about letting us know if there's any conflicts. I don't know about whether the schools, are you still on a February, April full week? I'm just sort of lost track of all of that because it doesn't affect me anymore. So I don't know if is the February 16th date an issue is that school vacation week by any chance?
No, it's not an issue for the public school break.
Okay,
That's what you're talking about.
Okay, so-
I went through it real quick too, based looking at the dates, and the only thing I saw that was a potential problem is the December date, that it's the week before Christmas.
I thought that was a little late. Yeah, I did check back up. Easter is April 17th. Passover is the 15th through the 23rd. Again, I don't know what the school vacation is around that period, whether the 20th is problematic or not. Easter would have come and gone.
I won't be around for the March 16th date, but it's okay. I mean, just because we have earlier spring break that starts then until for 2 weeks, and we don't have, my kids' school don't have the April break. But that's just me alone.
That'll probably be.
So
me
we could
too.
look,
Oh my
so
God.
we could look to move the December meeting to December 14.
I was thinking so because the way the calendar lays out, the third Wednesday in November is the 16th. It's kind of an early meeting that month,
Right.
just because I think the first is like a Wednesday or something. So I was thinking if we moved the December meeting to the 14th, that would be better than having it right around Christmas week, and that would still be close to a full month. So
Yeah, I think
And
that would
would
be great.
someone be able to send calendar invitations for these meetings? Or do we just,
usually we just all throw them on our calendar. I mean, I just go in and just literally do a recurring appointment third Wednesday of the month. And then if there's one we've switched, I go in and I move that one. And that always seems to work pretty well.
okay, cool.
I kind of like Janet's suggestion though too, because when you do send the invitation out, then people do respond. So then that might take care of us wondering who's showing up.
Yeah, if you guys can do that, if you can organize that in the office, that would be great.
I'll try to do that. I'll take a look at it, Janet.
Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, because then, especially if, even if you already have it on the calendars, you can send an update right before each meeting and people can RSVP again if they
Right.
if they aren't able to come.
Yeah, I like that idea.
Okay.
Thanks.
All right. So it sounds like we'll stay with our third Wednesday, 7:30, with the exception of the December meeting, which will move to the 14th. And, I understand there's going to be times when people have particular, instances where you're not going to make it, but that cadence seems to work pretty well. Okay. So with that, I would need a motion to approve the schedule as proposed with the December date being changed. Somebody?
I'll do it. Amy.
Amy, thank you. Second? Susan? Okay,
Yes.
okay. Pam, I'm a
Roll call.
yes. Yep, I'm a yes.
Lori? Okay. Kara?
Sorry, that was a yes.
I was a yes.
Okay. Mary Louise?
Yes.
Janet?
Yes.
And I believe that's everybody.
Okay, great, thank you. And believe it or not, we have to talk about Mr. Freight's dock again. As you know, I just want to keep this a very short leash. We will have a new first selectman and select board coming in. They might have different views on this. As you all know, Jamie Stevenson has been very keen on, supporting the Freights as the, remaining fishermen in town, and there really just aren't any options for him. None of us love having this situation, and once we can get the boat ramp fixed, certainly that's going to cause us to revisit it. We did not have any complaints this summer. The only issue we had was actually with another commercial skiff that got tied up. They were working on a dock installation, but Pam was notified of that by, I think it might have been Cheryl or Adele or somebody, and tracked down the owners and pretty quickly let them know that they could not, park the boat there. But we did not have any specific issues where the freights did not have the boat kept on the, the proper side or whatever that I am aware of. So this is clearly going into the winter season where there's really not much use of the boat ramp anyway. Boats are definitely starting to be pulled out for the season. So most people's boaters insurance expire. Your insurance always expires pretty much on November 1st anyway. So boats are, pleasure boats are pretty much done within the next couple of weeks. So, for now, I'm happy keeping it going. And, it's just something I just want to never lose sight of it, because that was really the issue. Is it was agreed on years ago and then it got forgotten about as the town staff turned over, the commission turned over, and then we had a complaint a couple summers ago, and it was like, it just, nobody was paying attention to the situation. So I just think it's important. And plus that allows Pam to go back and make sure and reaffirm that he's providing the town with the insurance certificates that we require him to have to provide to us, which is really important. So we just want to keep this very, very buttoned up. Okay, so any questions or comments? Nope. Okay, then can I have a motion?
I'll move that we continue on for the next 6 months.
Okay, great. Thank you, Mary Louise. Second? No second?
I'll second. That's fine.
Thanks, Amy. Okay. Okay. I'm fine with it, Pam. It's a yes.
Okay. Tara?
Yes.
Janet? And Susan?
Can I abstain?
You can.
I think I'm going to abstain. Thank you.
Okay.
I was waiting to see what you would do, Susan.
Okay.
Okay, Pam, can you do the notification letter to him and make sure the insurance certificate is up to date? I can't remember if we get one every 6 months or whether it's annual, but just make sure that we have
It's
everything.
annual.
It's annual. Okay.
Yeah, we'll do.
Okay. All right. So Pam, we're up to your director's report.
Yeah, I think it's pretty self-explanatory. I did add all the capital items on there. It does certainly go over the monies that Jim is referring to with the paddle registrations. Are up by $7,000 compared to last year already, which just shows the use. And fall registrations are up 42% over this time last year as well. So everything that we've seen in terms of the increase of usage and registration has not settled down. So whatever happened with the bursts of using our parks is continuing. And I think people are noticing our facilities more. And this is a perfect time with the standards of care, because people are out noticing our parks more and our facilities more. So I think it's great. I will mention that the movie in the park and Rocktoberfest, if you haven't heard from me already on this, they were both hugely successful. And we had about 1,100 people that came out for Rocktoberfest on Highland, about 250 people for the movie. And it was a test. It was a good test of how many cars would be coming in, how we would handle the parking on overflow parking, and it was darn smooth. And so, we're just looking forward to next year and what other things we can do to even make it better. So we will get started much earlier than we did this year, because we were so uncertain whether or not what the climate was going to be and whether we were even going to be able to pull it off. So in reality, an event like that should be started to be planned at least 8 to 10 months before it's on. So we know we need to get started much earlier this year, but nobody from the outside would know that. It went pretty smooth. So that was great. So that's all I have.
Great, thanks. Any questions for Pam?
I have one question. Pam, the fall registrations were up 42% over last year, which is an amazing number. Was last year down because of COVID? So this is like flatline, or is this, I mean, it's just a number that stands out so high. So
Right, it actually, sorry to interrupt. 2020, where 2020 hurt us was solely the spring. Spring registrations were canceled. Everything was canceled. And then our staff then pivoted and started offering virtual programming and doing whatever they could to, offer residents things to do. But the summertime was an uptick and the fall was an uptick. So people just came out in numbers in the park in 2020. So it really only was the spring. So this is 42% above what was already a really busy fall last year in 2020.
that's amazing. So great job.
Yeah, thanks.
Other questions? Okay, well, I will wrap it up with chairman's report. As we've already mentioned, the ribbon cutting was a just huge success, and really want to thank Pam and the staff, Patty Baumgartner, who was very helpful, other members of the community who really stepped up to organize the event, staff it, get the raffle prizes, everything. It was really a very lovely afternoon. And I was teasing Jamie that, her weather gods have changed because we planned an event and had beautiful weather on the first try. So she was really happy about that. And it was fun. Pam and Jamie even got out and played some pickleball themselves, which was really nice to see them out there. And, they do all the hard work and they out there really had a nice time doing that. So that was great to see. I'm sorry she isn't here this evening, but you all saw that Jamie was selected for a statewide Recreation and Parks Award for young professionals, which we're really excited about. Pam had asked me to write a letter of support. So I was really, thrilled to see that she was selected because she's so deserving. And we've all extended our congratulations to her, but I did want to do that, publicly in our recorded meeting as well.
Yes,
She'll get her award in November at an event. So that'll be really nice. But, I get so many comments, from people as I'm dealing with in town about how great she is to work with and her level of energy and creative thinking. And we're just really lucky to have her. So that was really exciting. I was holding my breath she would get nominated for that. So that is great news. Monday night was the monthly Coastal Commission meeting. We have one more and then we'll take a winter hiatus. Discussions, a lot of discussions are around, which doesn't really affect the parks, but, the waiting list for moorings in town and, different thoughts about, if there's ways to, either create more spaces, which is kind of tricky and problematic, making sure that people who should be releasing their moorings, because they've moved out of town or kind of keep them or don't have a boat anymore and they're just kind of lending them to a friend and stuff. So, there's a lot of discussion around that as opposed to improving the minimum standards for all of the moorings in the harbor. Because of the weather situations, we've had a lot of wind events, not so much this summer, thankfully, but last summer, we had some boats break loose and either they were significantly damaged or they can, of course, damage other boats as they whip their way through the harbor. So a lot of work being done on that by the commission, Norotan Yacht Club, boat club members, et cetera. So that's always a topic of conversation. I did hear that Tom Bell, who's been our harbor master for a few years, has resigned. Effective at the end of the year, he just became the board chair of the boat club. And so they're looking for someone to step into that spot. It is a volunteer role, which probably is a thankless job. But they are looking for someone who the town would then nominate to the state to be appointed by the state. And this commission also kind of oversees the shell fishing that takes place in the area, both the recreational and the commercial, which is done by the freight. So that commission has a lot of interface with the freights as well. And one of the commission members actually went out on the boat with them a few weeks ago because part of their ability to, Shellfish, the Darien Waters and Scott's Coves is that they have to reseed clam beds every year for the recreational clammings. And someone from the commission actually kind of goes out and sort of goes with them, to see how much is being put and done. And that was just done as well. So that's the type of thing that the Coastal Commission gets involved with. They're always interested to know what's going to happen, with the boat ramp. And we did have some questions on that, or a question on that last month, and we did get a good written confirmation from Mike Scrow and Dan Biggs from Weston and Sampson that the soil samples have been finished, that it looks like everything was fine. So we're waiting for the written report that the soil samples pass the standards, which will then be added to our our application for approval to work on, the parking lot and the boat ramp. So it does remain with Connecticut Deep, and it's just been a very long, slow process. So that's where we are on that. I do want to talk about the parks tour for a minute. Pam we put the agenda together and sent it out. So if you didn't see that in your email, please, yeah, we do plan to start at 8:30, okay? 8:30, not 9 o'clock, 8:30. If everybody could aim to arrive between 8:50 and 8:30 so we can, be doing our official business at 8:30, that would be really helpful. We are going to start at Cherry Lawn. We did leave 45 minutes for Cherry Lawn as opposed to half an hour for the other parks, because I think there is a lot we want to talk about there. And because we do have Laura, who's going to spend some time on the invasives, I really felt we needed some extra time at that park. So if everybody could be prompt, that would be terrific. From there, we will move on to Woodland. I did look back at where we went for the last few years, so try to pick up, and alternate where we go each year. So then we'll go to Woodland with the focus. We'll look at the parking lot, which, Pam wants to show you all, maybe head into the woods a little bit, but I don't think we need to cover the whole park. Then we'll stop at McGuan because the playground is something we want to take a look at in the context of the capital budget. Then Baker, a couple things that Pam wants to point out to us at Baker Park, and then we'll head over. There was a request that we do Pear Tree this year. So yeah, my experience is 5's about all we can do. We always seem to slip and fall a little bit behind schedule, and then people seem to need to peel off for kids sports or different things. So that's about as much as we can get in. So what we're going to do this year is, and I was really pleased that Cara volunteered, is we're going to create like a sheet for each park and try to have, like the standards of care. So like the key bullet points, that we put in the standards, like there's one standard, about the trees. There's one about plantings, there's standard about, chip paint and all of that. And, we can append the whole description, but we'll try to have just sort of a short highlight for the topic. And then, we can each go through and kind of rank them. So just sort of say, okay, if we're at Cherry Lawn and, we're looking at, is the building in good condition, of the gazebo, how you would rank that. And Cara and I went back and forth whether do we just say unsatisfactory, satisfactory, or great? Do we do like a 1 through 5? Do we do an A through F? I don't know if people have opinions how they'd want to. A through F sounds a little harsh because you'd kind of hate to see Fs, but or do you just want like a 1 through 3? I mean, any thoughts about how you might feel comfortable ranking things, people?
1 to 10 is really very popular now.
1 to 10?
Yeah.
Wow.
Then you have more middle room, and there's more.
Really hard. I mean, whatever you guys want.
The letters seem very punitive, I think, because everybody's always like, "Oh, you got an A student," and we can do 1 to 5 if you want, but 1 to 10 seems to be like when I get surveys now, they all say 1 to 10.
Okay. Other people's thoughts? Are you comfortable with that? Okay. Cara, you want to go with a 1 through 10?
Yeah, I would have gone with a check plus, check minus, but I'm happy to try the 1 through 10. I think this time it'll be just a practice run through it, and we're going to see how this form works. And so I'll send it, Lori, first to you via email, and then we can iterate and then send it to the full group. And
Right, or
I'll do-
we may have the office actually make a bunch of copies that we can hand out or whatever. And I think maybe we have our guests do them too, you know, members of the Parks and Rec Committee from the RTM that generally join us. And then another suggestion that Cara had, which I think is terrific, is because we are only going to 5 parks, we're missing a bunch. And then if we could get members of the commission to each volunteer to cover 1 or 2 more parks, it probably could have even a couple people do the rest of the parks, you know, over the next month or 2. You could either do it independently or get together with your partner and go together, which is a nice way to spend an hour with the commission member and get to know each other. But that way we could cover everything from Weed to even Stony Brook. I mean, there's probably not a lot to rank there, but you know, Freight Park, but we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 other parks that we need to get covered. And then we would sort of have a full inventory, and that would help us kind of level set things. Once we get the form filled out and kind of look at it, then we'll be looking for people to, you know, sign up for a park or 2 to go out and then have a complete set. So I thought that was a great suggestion on Cara's part, is to just really, let's try to take the standards, apply them, and kind of see how everything ranks, you know, whether we try to bar chart it or pinpoint or whatever, you know, come up with some kind of charts or something and see what it tells us. Okay. So thank you for volunteering for that. I really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
She's like, I took a stab at this. Is this okay? And I'm like, absolutely. And then just the last thing, I don't know if people have had a chance or either listened to live or watched the League of Women Voters Candidates night for both first selectman and selectmen. If you haven't listened to it, I would suggest you do so before the Board of Ed. It's maybe an hour and a half-ish, give or take. But both the selectmen debate and then the first selectman debate and the selectmen candidates debate, there were questions on the parks. So, you know, I think it's worthwhile for all the commission members to kind of hear what was, you know, said about, you know, their level of support from the parks and, you know, are they willing to, you know, support maintenance of the park? Some of the answers I thought were a little bit squishy, but generally there seemed to be support for the parks. You know, kind of different. There was a question on Pear Tree. There were definitely different answers between the first selectman candidates. Oh, these pictures just went out. So I would just say it's worth, you know, just hearing what our candidates said, you know, certainly probably before election day. And then the League of Women Voters mentioned that on their website, which is lwvdarien.org, the voter's guide with more information about each candidate. That I've not looked at yet. Whether there's information on their position on the parks, I don't know yet. But
I saw that in Darien Night, that the League of Women Voters published a voter's guide on all the candidates right before the debate. So it's actually right now, it's in Pear Tree Project is mentioned in there. As well as, you know, on the debate, and you'll see this at the debate yourself if you get a chance to, but one of the candidates mentioned that there's no 5-year plan for capital expenditure for, you know, the town parks and properties, which seems like it's just not true. I mean, we just, you know, looked at one, so but you can take a look at
yeah, it wasn't exactly a right statement. That being said, if this individual feels that we should have a much more 5-year search, like, so we really know what upcoming and just say, okay, this is what we really want over 5. I mean, you know, and we want to codify that more, that's fine. So, I mean, as we've talked about, you know, there's only one individual who's an incumbent, so the selectman board is largely going to be, or could completely be, new people, depending on how the votes turn out. So I think we as a commission need to talk about getting in front of them and really understanding their views, their level of support, let them know what we're thinking about, standards of care, some of these major capital projects that got put on hold because of COVID, or, I mean, you know, we were not looking at pear tree, we were looking at a big project of weed, and really getting going again. A lot of the debates, certainly they were talking about flooding and how that's going to be, you know, massive expenditure for the town. So, you know, my concern selfishly is that, you know, that then we'll prioritize and say, well, now we can't spend money in the parks because we have to do the flooding, which obviously, you know, I understand what, you know, the priorities there where people's homes are being destroyed. But, you know, the question is it an either or? You know, is it an either or? And really what the position is on that. So, you know, as we think about these bigger projects, I think we want to go forward knowing what level of, you know, support we have from the select board on them, because, you know, without that, it's hard to get too far. So that was really it. I just did, you know, I just wanted to mention that if you didn't have to watch it, it's just worth, you know, just you can go on the Vimeo or whatever and take a look at it. It's also playing on 79, I think a couple times a day. But I find the Vimeo is a lot easier because then you can just do it at your own leisure. That is all I had for this evening. So, anything else? Does anybody have any need to go into new business? No. Okay. And I think we can take a motion to adjourn. Susan? Okay. Second?
I'll second.
Okay. Cara? Okay. I'm happy to adjourn.
Good night, everybody.
Great. Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Okay. Good night.